What's up, everybody? Roddy Matt 51 here, coming at you with another NASCAR Heat 5 track guide video. Today we're going to be looking at Daytona International Speedway in the Cup Cars, one of NASCAR Heat's most favorite, most played, and most simple track. But, you know, with simplicity, there comes a lot of complexity with setups and how you can drive them differently, and just some different advantages that you can take to get ahead of the competition. Everybody knows with Daytona International Speedway, it is a super speedway track, so all the cars are tightly bunched up together. So watch this whole video. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks to maybe get ahead of that pack. So, of course, this isn't the setup that I'm going to recommend for you to use. We're going to go by each setting one by one, starting with the gears, which is probably the most important. So for the gears, you're going to want to tune down first gear a little bit, probably I'd say about like the 250-ish range, just so we can get something off the start. For second gear, I would say 140. Now, one of the very interesting things about NASCAR Heat 5, you probably already know, is that the fourth gear is restricted. So you have to make fourth gear work for the gear end ratio or run a 3-gear setup. So this is a little bit interesting now. You can take many different approaches with how you do this. So what I did actually in the eNASCAR Heat Pro League race for Daytona, not the Winter Series Championship, we had actually ran Daytona for the wild card race, and I almost won it. And still a little bit, yeah, that's one that got away for me with that race, with the caution coming out with 2 to go, with me having enough fuel to save. But that is a big thing at this track, is fuel saving. If you're doing a big league race at Daytona, or if you're, you know, just hosting a long race that involves anything to do with pit stops, fuel saving is always going to come into the equation, whether you can 1 stop the race or 2 stops the race, anything to get a big advantage ahead. So what I actually like to do is, I'll give you my gears here, which is a 250, 140, and then a 85. So what I do is, this is a little bit different because I have the beautiful Fanatec shifter. So I'll go from first gear, second gear, and then I'll go from second gear to fourth gear, and then that's my race gear with a 286. But I would recommend, probably for you, it really depends on what lobby you're running. You could run it a 291 or a 294. Those are both also good gears. But when you're in a pro league race, I mean, the pack is rustling around the racetrack at 220 miles per hour. So you want to have a gear that doesn't constantly rev out, and you want to be able to save gas. So anywhere with the rear end ratio from, I'd say, like a 2.86 is where I ran it in the Pro League, to, I would probably recommend a 294. That's really good. If you don't want to go the traditional setup, I actually don't have it one made for the traditional 4-gear setup, but I'm sure you could take like a 325 and then go with a third gear of 140, and then a second gear of like 210, and maybe like a first gear 280 if you wanted to do it just the standard 4th gear or 4-gear way. So I mean, whatever's your cup of tea with it, I mean, you can really go with either way. Just make sure when you're doing that to have the grill tape at its proper number. So I usually keep my grill tape at about 60%. Sometimes it's at 55. It really depends on the gears that it's running. But what you want to do is you want to have it in between that 7 and 8 nozzle when you're going full speed, so you can still make runs. You don't want to see it drop below the 7, and you don't want to see it go above the 7,800 range, because that's when you're starting to rev out. So I'm going to tune it back to what I originally had it, just so people can get a good screenshot. So I do like the 1-2-4-3 route, which is the 240, 140, 85 over the 286. So like I said, that's the gears that I use in the Pro League. It may not work for you. You may have to change it around a little bit. I know when I ran Super Speedway Sunday a couple weeks ago in the 704 NASCAR Heat event, it didn't really work out because my gears were really slow getting up to speed. But I promise you, when you're racing, you know, professionally, these are the gears that you're going to have to use. Now, heading over to the camber settings, one of the biggest things that that needs to be talked about, that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough with the camber settings, is you want to set up your super speedway races, Daytona, Talladega. You want to be able to make a pit stop after a full fuel run and a full tire run, and be able to take 2 tires and maybe a can to a can and a half of gas. That's going to give you a significant, and I mean significant, lead over all the other cars that have came in with you. So you just have to be aware that you need to be able, if you decide to put any changes in the setup or whatever you do to make this setup better or different, you need to be able to take 2 tires on a pit stop if you have to, because that will make or break your race, and that will define if you're able to win an event. So for camber, I like to put my lefts at a 4 positive. Rights can go to a 3 negative. I run a little bit lower on the front sway bar. Left track bar really doesn't matter. You kind of want to keep it low. You don't want to have your car get too loose in the corners. I'd say a 975 is probably good. And right track bar, you can match it out with a 975. Brake bias, very, very interesting. I use low brake smoothing, so I like to use 75. But one of the biggest things at Daytona, Talladega, in the super speedway races is you want to run with no brake smoothing. It's going to allow you to significantly brake faster going into the pits than any of the other competitors that may or may not be running brake smoothing, either low or high. So I highly, highly recommend putting your brake bias on 75 and just turning off the brake smoothing and try going down pit road. You're going to gain a significant advantage. You're going to pick up 1 to 2 seconds, and you know when you're on pit road, that is big in picking up positions when you're all stuck single file in a line. So onto the grill tape, like I said, 55, 60% is probably fine. Wheel lock really doesn't need to be changed, 8/75. Tire settings. Now this is very interesting. Daytona Talladega, you always want to put your tire settings all the way up to the maximum 60. I seen in one YouTuber's video, he put them at 50. Nah, you want to put them at 60. There's no reason to keep them at 50. It's just going to reduce your speed on the long run. Now, like I said, be advised, you still want to be able to take 2 tires on a pit stop. So, if you're not able to take 2 tires after a full fuel run, you might want to play around more with the camber and the sway bar, but I guarantee you with this setup, you will 100% be able to take 2 tires on a stop if you keep it just like this. So, I'm just putting up the tire pressures now as we speak. I wish there was a little bit faster way to do this, but I'll have to make up with my beautiful color commentary instead. So, so far, Kid went over the miscellaneous settings, gear settings, and the tire settings. Now, another interesting thing, another interesting thing with this track is, as you know, a lot of people in NASCAR Heat, they like to bottom feed on this track, like I said. So as long as you can stick on that bottom and not over rotate the car, you want to actually kind of make your car a little bit tight. You know, there's going to be some bumping, there's going to be some banging, so just try to make your car not too loose so you don't scrub speed off in the corners, because that does happen in the corners. All right, heading over to the springs. Springs are fairly easy again. You just want to tune them all the way up to 1200 and 400 as the never-ending clicking of the springs going up, entering the setup in. But yeah, 12, 12, 4, 4 is more than appropriate with putting this setup in. With that, like I said, this setup is, or this track is very, very simple. So, you know, it's just being able to learn the track and doing it like that. But like I said, still complex. You gotta have something to be able to beat your other competitors. All right, I'm rambling. On to the next thing, which is shocks. Shocks can actually be tuned down fairly low at Daytona. I have it at 4s and then 3s. So I'll have a 4, 3, 3, 4, and then a 4, 4, 4, or 4 again, and then a 3. So that setup should glide you fairly easily through the corners. If you're feeling like it's bouncing too much, you can try putting this one up a couple clicks. I found that 5 also works fairly good, but I like to use a 3. I like to have my car a little bit bumpier. I feel like it picks up a little bit of speed, but you can always bump these up a little bit. Maybe this one you could bump down or bump up just a click or 2. But you'll pretty much figure it out. You'll drive this setup and just see how it handles, and then you can come in and make these small changes. That's why I'm kind of walking you through the different changes that you can make. But whatever you do, don't touch the springs or the tires, because those are already pretty much meant. All right, now the weight settings. This is pretty simple right here. 54.2, obviously, because it's a track with only left turns, just like many other tracks. The front weight can stay at 50.0, and then I take the wedge down to a solid 47.5, and then the front and rear ride heights can stay at a 4.0. So that's pretty much a really, really solid race setup that's going to be able to win you a lot of races if you use it just like as you see here. Like I said, the key points of this race is the 2 tires on pit road and the no brake smoothing to allow you to brake coming onto pit road faster. Everything else is pretty much driver skill, just having out there, getting some luck at the super speedways, not getting in a crash, and just having fun. So I'm going to take you a couple laps around this racetrack just to show you how this pretty much rolls. So we're running the Daytona 500. In practice, I'll run you 1 lap to show you the groove that you need to run. This track, very simple for most of you that are probably already here or that have watched any of my videos. Full throttle, just around the bottom of the racetrack. You're going to want to get up through the gears. Gear 1, gear 2, and then 1 should accelerate up from gear 2. You're going to want to go to gear 4. And then that is your gear 4. This is my race gear, and then I have my gear 3 as my fuel gear. As you see, my fuel gear runs approximately 6,700, which is really, really low. But when you're in a draft in the Pro League, man, does that thing need to be high. That thing needs to get up in the RPM. So I'm going to bump the apron a couple times because I'm on my Elgato, so I'm not 100% too great at that. I'll go back to my fuel gear here. Using the Fanatec wheel. Now we're back in the race gear. We see a couple cars coming up on us. We're going to let them pass us high. Hopefully we'll be able to suck in the draft with them. But pretty much it's all about just staying low, trying to get as much speed as you can. Now this setup I provided you isn't the best on qualifying. We can go over qualifying too. Pretty much just take your campers to 8, 8, and then I would recommend doing the regular 4-gear setup, and you should be fine. As you see, this car is very, very stable throughout the corners. Very, very easy to turn. You're not going to get tight. Very easy to hold a line here. We're going approximately 210 behind this 10 cars. He's kind of going to wiggle, try to break the draft from me. I don't know why the AIs do that. But as you see, just staying on that low line, pushing the AI car through the track. And now we're going to try to make the pass. But by itself, this car does lack a little bit of speed. But, you know, this car is really, really good at pulling up and getting around this here as we are battling hard with this 10 car who's going to try to abandon me here. The AIs don't really want to work with me, but we're going to get a little bit of side draft here. Yeah, pull him down. All right. Now Boyer's going to go with us. Boyer back on the bottom side of the racetrack. So that's pretty much all you got to do for Daytona. Full throttle, and I'll show you a pit stop here. I have it on 2 times wear, unfortunately, but when you're in a pack, you just gotta watch your tires because they will burn really, really fast. So now, pretty much, like I said, all you gotta do, hold the bottom line of the track, full throttle, just have fun when you're driving around the other cars. You're seeing it around the 8,000 mark on the RPMs, which is very, very decent. You don't want to go over that too much with the RPMs. So. We're going to show you a live pit stop, and that is going to end the video. Let us know what you think in the comments down below, if you think I should make any changes to this, or just let me know if you like the setup or not, as I'm actively getting past. But right there on the brakes,
Going too fast.
getting the thing woed down for pit road, got down to pit road speed. And that's pretty much the advantage of using the no brake smoothing, and then you don't need the tires because they're at 97, 97. So that's pretty much all you need to know for the Daytona International Speedway. Don't hit the apron as many times as I did. Like I said, I'm on an Elgato capture card, so it's just a little bit different for me because I'm using a windowed screen instead of the full screen when I'm used to, and I'm trying to put commentary over it. So those are my excuses for hitting the apron there. Sorry, guys. So try not to hit the apron as much as I do. Have fun with this setup. This is really, really fun to make. This is one of NASCAR Heat's best tracks. And take it easy, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.